What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be talking about the XRP price chart, while, of course, incorporating in the Bitcoin price chart, along with some macro stuff like the Russell 2000, Bitcoin dominance, Ethereum, but all tying it in together for the bigger picture over here for XRP, which is my largest holding in the cryptocurrency market. Hence, it's my favorite topic to talk about. But of course, if you've been sleeping under a rock or you're just finding out today, the price of XRP sits at $3.33 as I record this video this morning, coming off the heels of the SEC versus Ripple case officially being over in every way, as yesterday the SEC and Ripple filed their joint dismissals of the appeals and the case is over. The price of XRP fired up from like $3.07 to $3.35, and the long 5-year battle has officially come to an end in every way. I started covering crypto content back in November of 2019 here on YouTube. We, of course, went through the lawsuit when it happened back in December of 2020, just a couple of days before Christmas. And then the preceding 5 years after that, we've, of course, had that going on in the background as a nightmare. But it is officially in every way over. We've, of course, had many moments where it really was over back in July of 2023 when XRP was deemed not a security. Of course, when Judge Torres made her final ruling, XRP, of course, was done. It was all over the exchanges, right? It got relisted back on exchanges and everything. But there's always been that moment of waiting for it to just officially be over. And that, of course, is what we do have here as of yesterday, as both parties filed the dismissal or removal of their appeals. They're done. They're not fighting for anything anymore. The game is over. And for many of us, that's been a very long, painful journey to finally be done with. So congratulations to everyone who stomached all of those years of that. When that lawsuit was officially filed back here in December of 2020, the price fell all the way down to 17 cents. And here we are nearly 5 years later, up nearly 1,800% since that low at $3.33. So a huge milestone for everybody, of course, worthy of taking a day or a weekend to celebrate making it through that. That was a personal journey for everybody to have to go through. Definitely lots of trials and tribulations and internal emotional battles to have to deal with going through that thing. So now with that behind us, it's about taking a look at the chart and saying, hey, what do we think prices can do from here? I've argued time and time again that this is going to require the entire market in order to see the price of XRP shoot to the moon. I still believe that to be true, and I'll kind of show you what I'm seeing over here on the charts on how we're just kind of at the brink of a moment for everything in the market to be able to do something, and that includes XRP moving with the rest of the market. The first thing to comment on is simply what we've been talking about over here on Bitcoin for the last several months and just where we are right now. If this idea is true, and if this is where we're going for the Bitcoin price chart, and that we're entering into this last wave here, well, let me ask you this. What do you think the chances are, right? What do you think the chances are that we start the last wave in here and then the lawsuit comes to a conclusion right as we're entering into the speculative moment of the market? Do you think that's an accident? Do you think that's magical unicorn fairy dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, God, or simulation? Just, technically speaking, if that's our low right there, right, that means the last wave has started. And we have this happen right as the last wave is starting, which would, of course, open up the world for speculative fervor, lots of narratives, and all that good stuff. So it's, of course, showing up at a good time in the market, right? I'll show you why else it's showing up at a good time in the market is that we know in crypto that when alt seasons happen or speculative fervor runs rampant throughout the market, it happens in two particular phases. It happens either when Bitcoin's going into an expansion, which is where we just saw XRP go from 50 cents to $3, or we see it happen when Bitcoin's actually topping. So my argument has been that we're building the last wave to go in for the topping of Bitcoin that will bring that speculative fervor in alt season. But the true signal of when alt season is actually happening is we can monitor the Bitcoin dominance, and that shows us that it's actually kicking off. And what you can see is right where Bitcoin dominance is right here, right now, it's the exact same location it was at from where alt season began back in 2021. It was the breaking down of this level that triggered alt season to go and lasted 30, 45 days, and boom, that's the end of the market. In yesterday's video, I talked a lot about like the monthly time frame, the indicators over here on the Bitcoin dominance showing that they're rolling over, and that either by some point in this month or by in September, we're going to see all those indicators flip red over there on the Bitcoin dominance, which of course is what we want to see if you're an altcoin speculator, because that tends to favor when the altcoins perform well. But even over here on the weekly time frame, we can look down here at the relative strength index on the weekly time frame of the Bitcoin dominance to see where does it sit right now. It sits right here at 40. Now, if you notice right over here, notice how it found support right there on top of 40. And then eventually, once it broke right on through, what happened? We had alt season kickoff. We had the initial flip of the MACD into the red in here, and then it really caught momentum. We've already had the biggest flip into the red on the MACD over here. Now we're just waiting for one more sign of weakness to show up in here on this Bitcoin dominance to take out this floor to shoot our way into an actual alt season. So you can see that we sit right on the cusp of it, of the level that we're at right now, not just from hitting a technical level and then being at a technical level that triggered alt season in 2021, but also technical levels here on the indicators as well. And I've showed these on bigger time frames even in yesterday's video, but it's not there yet, right? It's sitting right on it. So it still has to break it. But where else do we see in this market of it just has to break down? And that's right over here on Ethereum, because on Ethereum, we could see we're at the same thing. These prices have not been crossed since December of 2021. If you were to bust through here, there would be a 4-year breakout happening for Ethereum. XRP, while sitting at $3.33.8 right now, is again back at that all-time high again, still needing that one more bust out to happen in here. While we still need this one more bust out to happen over here on Bitcoin. So people are probably thinking, why isn't XRP shooting up to $5 today now that the case is over, right? Well, I think we got to $3.33 likely because we all saw this coming, right? But in order to get this speculative fervor and the mad dash and the irrational exuberance and the price targets of $589 or $1,000 of insanity, which will not happen, people have to believe in it though, right? How else do people pay $8, $9, $10 for XRP? Well, they do it because they think it's going to $500 or $1,000. It was the same thing with Bitcoin back in 2020 and 2021. I remember when Bitcoin was like $5,000, $6,000 and saying, hey, I think we're going to $70,000. And at that time, people saying, why would anybody ever spend that much money on Bitcoin? It didn't make any sense because it was only 6,000 back then. And the argument was, well, once you get there, people have their reasons, their justifications. This time is different. Something happens. And we just need to enter into that in this market to be able to get that going. And so in order to get that big break and that break on the Bitcoin dominance and the break over there on Ethereum, right? It feels like there still is that thing I keep talking about of like one trigger, one thing for people to latch on to say this time is different and hold on to it, some narrative, some surprise, some whatever you want to call it. You want to call it a white swan, whatever. Something that makes this time is different. And it feels like we are just kind of right there on it, needing that event to arrive. And there's the confluence of everything being at these major resistance levels, needing something like that to bust it out, whether it's Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin, or the Bitcoin dominance, right? So if XRP was back here at $3.33, and if this Bitcoin dominance was already sitting down in here in the 40s, I'd be pretty worried right now. But we're not. We're sitting right there on that support. And if you are able to take that out, that starts the speculative fervor of the whole market. And that, of course, is the most optimistic thing for the XRP price chart, because with 13 years of price data, we know that is what actually gets this thing shooting to the upside. And so I'm, of course, excited to see that the case is over. That was 5 years. I mean, I don't know how many gray hairs I've put on. I mean, like a couple of years ago, I started to just kind of pluck them out of my beard and be like, all right, we're just going to pluck that one. We're not going to accept reality of what's happening here. But now I'm at a point where I just have to give up. There's just gray hairs in my beard. Now, I don't know if that's because I'm getting older. Probably, but we'll just blame it on the lawsuit. But I do think that moment is coming for the market, and we're doing technical things that you would think would happen in here. And of course, we've used these examples multiple times on various YouTube videos here for XRP. And I brought it up in yesterday's video too. When we were just sitting right here, that, what I would really like to see is to see the price be able to get back to the high. And one of those reasons, of course, is that with where it's at right now, what do you have? You have a lot of excitement. You saw the price push, and where did it get pushed to? 702 retracement right on the button. So of course we want to see more come out of this to be like, okay, this thing isn't going to ABC, and this is just a B leg happening in here, and we're getting this big narrative to come in and create irrational exuberance and excitement back at a retrace. I'd like to see price be able to get back to the high, which I don't even think it's going to actually break out from there yet. If we do get to it, it would be likely that it would actually just end up stalling out at the high again, and then probably pull back, with Ethereum pulling back, Bitcoin pulling back, until we actually get a real breakout to happen out of here, where a real fifth wave expansion comes in. That will take Ethereum out, XRP out, and the Bitcoin dominance down, because all the Bitcoin dominance needs to do is have one more break. One more break, it takes out price levels along with indicators implying weakness. And we talk about this a lot. So for people who have watched for a long time, we talk all about what are bull and bear market support levels, right? When you're in a bear market, you're stuck underneath 60. When you're in a bull market, you're supported on top of 40. So when the Bitcoin dominance breaks and clears down through 40, that means the Bitcoin dominance is in a bear market. But of course, this implies a bull market for the altcoin market, right? So what I'm trying to show, of course, here is that it's exciting to see that this happened. But if we want something sustainable and big and moving throughout the market, there's still probably a couple of pieces of the puzzle that still have to happen in here, in addition to probably needing to see the Russell 2000 be able to break from this level. And, this is really my primary target for the Russell 2000. But we talk about Bitcoin dominance. We talk about Bitcoin. We talk about Ethereum. We talk about XRP. We talk about all these things. They're back at it, right? And so is the Russell. So if you find yourself being like, why isn't price shooting to the absolute moon now that the case is over? It's still just the same stuff we've always talked about, that it's all one big giant trade. And we're still waiting for that last big break to happen. And that big break would be the Russell taking this thing out, Bitcoin escaping from here into this final wave of euphoria mixed with XRP and Ethereum. And so there certainly is a sigh of relief to be beyond that and to not have price suppressed down into the depths of despair anymore, as we're over $3 for XRP. But we still have the major break that has to happen. And if that major break happens in there, I think it's going to send everything. The Russell gets out. If Bitcoin gets out, the dominance will collapse on itself. And that is always the environment for XRP. So while we're back at that 702 retracement, there's a little bit of caution to see that we're able to bust out here yet. There's no evidence that we're going to get through it just yet, but it's not uncommon for there to be a little bit of resistance and waffling around that happens right here. And if XRP can get itself back to $3.65, heck, I'll even take it if it gets to $3.55, $3.60. It's likely to stall in there and pull back, but that's just the final one before the thing absolutely rips. So right now, our big battle is one, not getting stopped out here at the 702 retracement right now. And two, our bigger battle is trying to get Bitcoin to get out with the Russell and the clear break of the Bitcoin dominance. And there's so much confluence happening here throughout all of these markets that you can tell that we'll be able to pinpoint nail the second a real breakout is actually happening. Because we're going to have confluence of multiple factors occurring all at the exact same time to imply it. We're going to see XRP going. We're going to see the Bitcoin dominance break. We're going to see the indicators break. We should be seeing Bitcoin at the exact same time, along with the Russell and along with Ethereum. And that these should not be fake outs when they end up happening, but be the real deal when they occur. And right now, we're not there. So that's what I'm trying to show you, is that we're right on the edge, but we haven't done it yet. So as we sit at $3.33, and we all celebrate that this moment of our life and this chapter is like completely and utterly closed with this SEC versus Ripple lawsuit after 5 years, I can take a moment to celebrate, but just like with baseball players, you win, you lose, you got to move on to the next game right away and forget about the one that just happened. And now I'm just having to be like, great, yesterday was a celebration, price has gone up, but how do we get further? How do we get into the real big move? How do we get to the bust out? And I think we're still just going to be waffling through here, trying to get through this moment right in here, but still believing that this is all coming, and that's going to be associated with the Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum and the whole market. But we've got to get there. And so I exercise caution in today's price action, as we, of course, sit right there. But in the event that we get through this throughout the weekend and get back to the high, we'll have a ton to talk about. I'll still exercise caution of a pullback, but then whoop, gone. So Congratulations, everybody. We went through that journey together for the last 5 years. And, I think it's probably something everybody will remember for their entire life and probably learned a lot about themselves during all of that. And then when this is all said and done, really reflecting back on it. And it's kind of surreal to really think it's just completely over. It's just kind of almost been a part of our lives, really, at this point. So, again, congrats, guys. So, we'll keep our eyes on macro. Now it's just, we won the baseball game. Now it's time to move on to look to the next game. And those are the confluence factors of the entire market. That's what I'm paying attention to. It's what I'm going to continue paying attention to. And throughout the weekend, we'll see how price reacts, see if it stalls out here at the retracements, or if we get that magical push to go back and touch that all-time high again. And if we get that, there'll be room to celebrate. Because it'll just be rocket ship videos from here on out. Even if I think it's going to pull back, we'll still just, rocket ship videos all the time. So, all right, let's get through today. Let's get through the weekend, and we'll check in on it Monday, guys. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Throughout the weekend, of course, you can check out my newsletter. It's blockchainbacker.substack.com. Most recent one, Bitcoin's breakout lights the fuse, looking at parabola anatomy as altcoin rotation begins with pressure building in macro and majors. It includes a 24-minute audio recording that I personally record after I write all of these. You can also check out bcbacker.com with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. There are links within the descriptions of each of my videos to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com and to bcbacker.com. Otherwise, guys, have an absolutely wonderful weekend, and I'll check in with you on Monday. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.